Your boy Vince is not here today. There we go. We live now. Welcome to the show. What you do for yourself depends on what you think of yourself. And our guys that's listening to it on live radio, I know y'all heard this again. I'm repeating it again, but that's okay. But it's a great show for you today. We're gonna bring you some good information. Anything going on locally, I'd like to thank everybody that came out to the lecture. We had a great lecture. I had a chance to speak a little bit and get a few things off my chest. It was a good thing. I enjoyed that. And I just wanted to lay on my, give you guys a little piece of me on what I was thinking about life and about who we are as individuals. And we have to step up and raise up, to this level of our God consciousness. And that's what it's all about. So I'm thankful for you guys who came out and got a chance to hear me get some stuff off my chest. And at the same time, got a chance to meet our good brother, Wayne Chandler. It was a great having him out on the lecture circuit again, doing his thing. I surely appreciate that. Yeah, Vince will not be with us today. Your boy Antonio is running the show today, so y'all know you got to bear with him, brother, but I think we got this handled up. Got a great show for you today. Informative show, especially for the locals, and it can resonate throughout the country when we're dealing with police. We got our good brother, he's CEO of Govia, brother Giorgio Sabino. He's going to be on the show. He's going to talk to us about how he come up with something to modernize police encounters, because that's what it's all about when we're dealing with African American community as it deals with the police. That's the justice system has been a thorn in black folks' side for forever. We know the police was the slave catchers and things like that. So it's a special relationship that the police have with our community. So this brother's come with a way of making that encounter a little bit more safer. So I'm gonna bring brother Giorgio Sabino up on the line here, and we'll get this show on the road. What's going on, my good brother?
Hello, greetings out there, everyone. Doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Oh, brother's hanging in there. Yes. Now, are you a policeman yourself?
I am not.
So what made you? Just tell us a little bit about what made you get involved in creating something that as far as our community is concerned, how relationship with police.
Sure. Coming from many different backgrounds, I wanted to share that my perspective on how this came about was Philando Castillo, and the mounting pressure that was in that climate, and so I asked the Lord that we need to answer for this. So this is when I took on the figuring out how you put together and make a safer environment, which is through what we've decided, which is Govia. And then how it works is that you now have someone who can give you credibility, someone who can give you privilege in the moment of your need. And that's what we're here to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The police encounters is, could be very tragic. And coming from a police perspective myself, I've done it for 30 and a half years, and I come, to that particular occupation with a conscious mind. I consider myself a conscious entity, and looking at that institutionalized behavior and how we do things and in police culture, it could be a shock for some that may be coming from an Afrocentric conscious mind on how this thing, as far as police business, actually work and operate, and how it relates to our community. So I found myself, struggling at times and dealing with certain things, and when you're going through the academy and things like that, they talk about these police encounters. It's actually, very dangerous. It's very dangerous, and sometimes police find themselves in the middle, between dealing with their safety and at the same time, trying to respect the people that they stop at, in those police encounters. You know what I mean? So it can be, risky. You can't go out there and just act like, everybody is above board and yeah, and I want to get the brothers, make sure I treat all the brothers right. No, you can get hurt out there still, and everybody's not above board. So that's something that we always try to, or at least I always try to make the community understand that there's two sides to that, and when you're approaching a car and you at night and it's more than one individuals in it, the police might be a little bit more on edge when approaching that car and giving out specific instructions on what to do. And sometimes his tone might not be quite where you want it to be at this particular time. So it could be very interesting. Your thoughts on that? Is this why you kind of came up with the program, what you did?
Great thoughts and questions. And here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Climate tells us exactly where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you look around and see, time after time on the ones that we're focusing on are the ones of the innocents. And so when we're thinking about how do we make a product or a solution to create something that can have full effect on someone's life moment, whether it's the before or after, or whether it's the police or the citizen, or in that level, we now have a way to say, let's slow down the situation. Let's provide a service. That way, both people are saying, okay, let's talk about this and go from there, because there's always going to be the ones who are serious about that.
Yeah, sometimes I used to think that as far as the African American officer, let's talk a little bit about that. As far as the African American officer is concerned, we kind of come from, you can find yourself coming from a different perspective and a different type of environment, because by African American officers joining the force, sometimes the community can look at you as being a traitor or something, that you're on the other side, because of our experiences that we had with the police, over the years, and I don't make any excuses at all about police officers in the past and how they dealt with the African American community. People who know me, I make no excuses for them. There's been some bad apples. There's been some problems with the police community, period. And that's just the way it is. And some of the things that went down in our community, as far as police is concerned, I was not in agreement with. But what to do? You in a field or occupation that can take someone's life, and some threatening things can happen to you as an individual, as a policeman. You take for instance that in South Carolina, when that police officer shot that guy, trying to run in the back, you know what I mean, and then laid down a taser beside. You know what I mean? Now it was if I'm not mistaken, it was an African American brother that came on the scene and possibly witnessed most of that. But the question would be, he's in that environment. How much can he say about that particular situation? Let's get real. What if he was to come out and say everything that he knew about that particular situation? How would that jeopardize his safety, his personal safety? Let's be real. We talk about that code of silence and that blue wall, and you don't tell and you don't rattle, just like it is in the streets. What they say, snitches get stitches. Well, you got that same thing going on in the police department. You'll be ostracized. God knows what else will happen to you if you. So that's something to think about, and that's something that, as far as our community. So I'm saying, with the African American officer, you in a tight spot. You can find yourself in a tight spot in it. And that's why sometimes I believe a lot of citizens, don't feel the love that they may want to feel coming from some of the African American officers, because that's a culture that's been there before we got on the force. And sometimes you finding yourself just having to go along with some of the things, and some things you gotta look at it and think about your safety. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, that's where, Govia wants to put, the mark, because this is the mark. You're saying that here's a solution and here's a problem. Well, that's where we're coming from. We want a safer environment. We want a safer encounter. And
Mm-hmm.
when you think about, how does that happen? That's where we come in and try to provide something that has never been done before. Malcolm X was, shared, a Bible and a gun in one hand, whereas we're saying the power of your phone is enough now with the technology that we have that we can instantly have things to assist and create an environment where I'm now de-escalated and can say, officer, let's talk civilly.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay. Tell us a little bit about the app. Uh, how does it function? How would it help the community, young folks? Because we used to do seminars all the time about what to do when stopped by the police and giving people proper instructions when they
Mhm.
encounter. So, a lot of times those encounters go bad. So we would go out and churches will have us and different other organizations will have us come out and give some good information on what to do and stop by the police. So tell us a little bit how the apps work and who would it benefit?
Sure. So our target market is between 12-year-olds and up to 26. And how this would help is that when you first download Govia, you would actually fill out several different things that you have to do. One is on the law side. So you'd say, here's the law, my life, here's what I've done, here's my information. And then on the medical side, you fill out, your HIPAA statements and etc. So that way, when you're talking live to someone, they know who you are through the app. So that's one part of it. The second part, so once I have the person who downloaded, we now can share and teach what are the new laws, how to be pulled over before they actually use the app.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
And so now we're providing, and then we're letting them know that after the experience, share their experience, so we can highlight the ones who are heroes,
Mm-hmm.
and inside of our social media side of it. And so when you highlight a hero, you now have an officer who's been lifted up in the community for this particular space.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's another angle where we're providing for officers as well as a space for people to share their stories. But what the person is putting up is going to turn into an affidavit. So they're going to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. And we send that document over to have it filed, so that way so we know who's telling the truth and who's not telling the truth. And that people are willing to do an affidavit directly from their phone. So imagine having a service streamlined where you're now doing a police report, in your car directly afterwards, where you remember the most, versus driving to an office, a police hub, in order to fill out the forms. We're
Mm-hmm.
not going to do it now, which is what we need. And that way you can upload the video, you can upload the things that we're sharing, and have a complete place where you could say, this is my documents, and we've already moving forward with statements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned you said like your HIPAA information or you filling out some of you like registering and putting all your information. What's the purpose of that, and what's your thoughts of that?
hmm
How,
so on the mental health side, I'm working with people, places, and dreams. And so when you call in and you have filled out the forms, then you would be getting a live person to help you through this crisis. So if I needed some assistance, you just came on and say hello, and how can I help you? Did you take your meds? Let's talk about it. And since I've released my information, you now have it to say, I can talk to you about this crisis that you're going through.
mm-hmm.
That's now we have live service where if you call Blue Shield, they do not have the service where after 6 p.m. that you can talk to someone live. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where we want to bring that in, so that way we can provide the resources directly to the people, for the people, and all people.
So you're saying the app can be used for that as well. To say I have the app and I know, I got the cognizance to know that I'm going through a crisis right now. So I'm not actually being pulled over by the police. I could go straight to the app and get some consultation with my caseworker. Is that what you're telling?
That's absolutely correct. Our goal is to provide you with that service where you can call into your mental health services,
Okay.
and,
Okay.
and be live 24/7.
Okay. So how does that work with far as a police encounter? I'm in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I get pulled over by the police.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do now, and what's going to happen if
Sure.
I get the service?
So if you have the service, you'll have a bumper, and your bumper sticker would say Govia. It's very similar to having a license plates because we want you registered for 2025 year and 2026, like your license. So when you go down to get your license tags to put on your vehicle, we want to do the same to say someone is 25, 26 approved on knowing all that information. Once they have that, you get a little blue check to say you're verified with our services. So we know that you've been taught how to be pulled over or what to do during a crisis for mental health. And then from there, you now have the service in that moment. So that's one part of it where you're able to use the service right away.
Okay, so I'm pulled over. So what should I? What's the first thing that I do, and how, how's that going to make me feel safe now?
Sure. So as you're pulling over, you would be saying, "Hey, Govia" to your phone, like, "Hey, Siri." So now you have an attorney, and you signed up for mental health. That person would be there as well. And so, since you now have me as your attorney, I would say, Mr. Antonio, we're here. I got you. De-escalate. All right. So when I see that you're pulling over, put your phone in the cradle of your car and turn it towards the window that the police officer is walking towards. Officer, I'm on the phone. I see you live. I've de-escalated my client, and so I'm letting you know I'd like to have some accountability. So now that I've de-escalated my client, if you break the law, then I can go testify that you broke the law. But if my client is breaking the law, then call me in. I'll testify against my own client. So we'll have that agreement. So now that my co-host is de-escalated, officer, please tell me, why'd you pull my client over? And so we're now providing a situation where we've de-escalated yourself. We shared with the officer that we have our client under control, and so we can move forward with a civil dialogue.
So at that point, so I guess with that initial contact, the client actually don't have to say anything. That the attorney would take over from that in that initial contact. So, and I guess that will put a different light far as the officer is concerned. By him approaching the car and know he's immediately talking to an attorney on the line. I guess that kind of sets up that whole initial encounter, putting it in a whole different direction, I believe, which is that, I guess that's the purpose.
Well, that's one way. Futuristically, if we are partnered with the police, then the persons from the police department would be into the Zoom as well. So you would get locked in. So not only would the client will be there, the attorney and the police will all be on one Zoom as the car is pulled over. What happens then is I, the citizen, would put my phone up and I'd put my hands up above my head and I would say, officer, I wouldn't say anything because my attorney's there, but my hands are above my head, which means that the officer can see that I'm not pulling a gun or hiding drugs. And my attorney's on the phone talking to the officer, why'd you pull my client over? I'm resting with my hands above, so the officer knows he doesn't have to rush the car.
I know one of the features that I really think that could work, and when you're trying to get relationships with different departments, is that part where you say that the officer itself, before he approached the car, that he can see actually what's going on inside the car before he actually approached. Would he be able to verbally, audibly say something to the clients inside the car at that time?
He would be, because he would be live as well.
Okay, yeah, and that seems like that's a sale that I can see that departments could see and place some value on. Knowing that it's late at night, and the people might be as innocent as could be. Who knows? But the matter of the fact that the officer can see inside the car, see how many people in the car, give them instructions while he's still in the safety of his car, or the other car. None of the people pulled over has exited the car, and they're still inside the car. So there's some level of him feeling safe at that particular point. So I can see how that can be very beneficial to that particular officer in question, and also beneficial to police departments as well. So you've been trying to reach out to some of the different departments, and what kind of responses have you been getting? I'm sure you've probably been working on this for a while.
Yes, I have. But yes, we've been making headway with the different departments that we've met, from the police commission to the policy, the policy
Mm-hmm.
uh, initiative as well, from the chief public defender's office. So we've gone a lot of different places through the city to try to uh,
Mm-hmm.
find the right match, so we
Mm-hmm.
could board on the right time.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, and I'm sure that's the whole focus too. If you can get some buy-in, from the departments, I can see how this can be, beneficial. And I'm sure on some people, it's a pushback, because we had some pushback initially, with the cameras, with those body cameras. A lot of police officers was a little reluctant in putting on the actual body cameras, but then later on they found out how it could be, how in some instances it became very helpful to the officer, just like you said, when the person on the street, or the suspect in the street, said something or did something, it was caught on tape as well, and they was able to benefit from that particular situation, the policeman, and then just like anything new, at first, it was an issue, but then they finally found out that it was benefit there. It had some benefits of
Right.
having a body camera on both sides. So you would say that this app kind of plays the same type of role, a dual beneficiary.
Absolutely. We spend $3.2 billion annually for police misconduct. Cleveland in 2018 spent 18 million. It roughly averages it out to 4.4 million
Mm-hmm.
incidents that reaches that level. And so when I think about what we're trying to do is cut that cost of 60%, and we would ask for 500 million, and we're now cutting your 3 billion down to a billion. And that way we could see real change, due to the fact that when you put the law inside of the car in the moment of there's someone's need, you've now told me, okay, I feel like I can be heard now, because someone's now listening to me, who's also someone's um, de-escalating me to talk. Well, at that point, I don't even have to talk. That my attorney now understands, hey, speak for me, so that way we can meet in court, instead of going with chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess that was kind of like my next question. So let's say, if this thing, let's look at this situation and just say, if it went sideways on you,
Mhm. Right.
So as they say, it went sideways, the officer may have overstepped his bounds and things like that. Now, what would happen at that particular point?
Sure. If it went sideways for the police, then
Mm-hmm.
yes, things would happen just as way that it would happen if it was the citizen. You know,
Uh-huh.
the different mechanisms that going on in this app will be able to, do augmented sentiment analysis, excuse me, that allow the computer to research who has the tone, who was the aggressor. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one piece of it. You would have different videos that we would have now that is capturing it. So as well, so you now have more evidence, if you will, for that to shake out the proper way.
Mm-hmm. So would that particular attorney um, appear in court with the person or something, or how would that work?
That's correct. Whoever gets assigned to a person is
Mm-hmm.
assigned to that person. So there's two parts of how the public defender's office works. Um, but that person would be assigned to someone, and then they would follow them through the process and gain a new client. So if you work for the private side of um, of public defender's office, and they send you over a case, you more than likely would take it and say, okay, this is another one that I can work with. So here we are
Mm-hmm.
now is providing that service where we're streamlining it.
And now let me ask you a question, though. When you talk about finances, economics, and things like that, how's the response from attorneys, and how are you marketing this app to get attorneys? So I guess because I think we kind of talked about it, and I believe it kind of in explaining it to somebody when you're talking about attorneys, you made a relationship like to Uber, or how I would reach out to different folks who may be online with this program, attorneys. Could you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So how it makes it beneficial is that, an attorney, someone gets into a car crash, the attorney who's an injury attorney cannot run over there and say, "Here's my business card." They have to wait for the phone call, if that still stands in law. And if not, that means that they have to wait for someone to call to say, "Hey, I've been injured." That's where we step in to say, "Hey, we're registering all these people who need an attorney in the moment." So it's very similar to Uber. Once you say, "Hey, Govia," you now getting connected to a live attorney, and
Mm-hmm.
from there you're connected to go through that process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's always good. In reference to that, we had Miss Brenda asked a question about I guess this is a question for me and my perspective, and you can chime in on it too. We always recommend that, especially at night. When you're approaching the car at night, that put both officers in seats. Miss Brenda is saying that should when I before the police officer approaches the car, should you turn on the inside light? And that's one of the things that we always talked about when I did workshops on what to do when stopped by the police, was
Hmm.
to turn on your interior light.
Hmm.
And so that gives a level of ease to the officer,
Hmm.
because he can see inside the car. So that would help even with your program, as far as the app is concerned. That would help as well, because he when you turn the light on and he has a visual inside the car, that would help as well. But yes, to answer your question, Miss Brenda, definitely I would definitely recommend uh, turning on the interior lights, because that put kind of everybody at ease. And as far as, because people got to understand, it's off the officers is trying to go home.
Hmm.
And and there's been officers that have been killed, just being a little complacent and walking up to a vehicle and just find out somebody just he's leaving a domestic,
Hmm.
and that's why he was speeding. He just shot somebody or just robbed somebody. If you've seen that on television, that the officer had no clue. He was just, hey, you went, you didn't come to a full stop, and boom, there's been traffic stops where as soon as the car stopped, the guy has gotten out of the car and started shooting. So I'm saying on that to say is that there's a level of caution and a level of intensity and anxiety that happens when you're going through a traffic stop. So the public needs to know that and understand that. There's two sides to that, but you need to understand it. And I think this app could help in reference to some of that. Any other benefits on this app that your thoughts that you put in there that can help? And you saying you recommending this for our youth. Why are you targeting the youth
Mm. Um, I can say that
or young adults?
where I stand at now, I've aged out on being pulled over. Reach that point where you age out, and you're like, and that I'm no longer, having that happen. And so, the youth are in that predicament where they're still trying to find who they are, and that's a battle where we believe that we can help, the parents who may purchase this for their child or children, and in that way they have a service. They've taught their children about how to use the service, and plus us. And so I think about, the nature of saying, okay, we believe in this product. We're willing to put a bumper sticker so the officer knows once we go live and once we market this in the right way with the police as well, then, now you have something that police can go, okay, this person might comply here due to the fact that they have an attorney in the moment of their need. They're de-escalated. They're just trying to figure out the situation. And so that there's many different ways, for that light to be on. That's something we can look at as a feature. and go through that process and of how that looks and so on.
Well, quite frankly, like they say, in keeping it 100, I can see how some, as far as the African American community, how some of our, you know, mothers and grandparents might want this, as far as their child is concerned, because we, being honestly, we have different conversations when we kiss our kids goodbye. For they going to a party, they going out to an event. We have different conversations. Hey, if be careful who you pick up, who you riding in, with in the car. Um, if the police stop you, do A, B, C, and D. Don't give them no trouble. Don't give them no back talk. Don't give them no lip. You know, those are issues, in our community, and we got to be honest with that. That those are some issues. And on the other side, we got to be truthful in saying there's some overzealous officers out here. And if your kid painting that big target on his back, what I mean by being a part of the trend, having a certain car, a certain kind of way, having the tinted windows, playing the loud music, wearing a certain type of gear that is attractive to some of these overzealous officers as well, we have to take all that into account, because it's real. It's real and it's truthful. So I can see how some grandmothers may, invest in something like this for their child, for their young the 2025 area. And that seems to be the area to where is some real concern at, and then, just looking at what the youth is doing right now in the city of Cleveland. You got these street takeovers and things of that nature. But again, I can see how it can be beneficial for our young folks, because we, to being true, we got, it's totally different conversations that we have, between our youth and other folks, So I guess this is the reason why you kind of like, targeted that youth. Is that correct?
I would say on multiple levels, because there's an international level as well. But when I think about our demographic, who we're targeting, and how we want to protect these young people, if that young person complied with their attorney, we now have a safer moment for all parties. That's what we're trying to get into, is saying, hey, how can we make it safe for both parties in the moment? And by providing that attorney and that assistance, hey, young Giorgio, hey, I need you to just chill out, relax. Got you. I'm your attorney. We've talked about this because you got educated in one of our consultations. Now that we're here in this live moment, de-escalate. I already told you the rules. Let's go through this process. We'll handle this in court. So now I have someone to believe in, who just spoke to me, de-escalated me, tells me, hey, you got pulled over, knows obviously my priors and all that information goes up to my attorney, so he would have, who I am, what priors I have, etc. Due to the, when you sign up, that you're giving that law firm access to. And so now the attorney knows Giorgio and can speak the right thing to Giorgio in that moment that he needs some assistance.
Yes. If you're just tuning in, you listen to 360 Info on WERE 1490 AM, and we're also streaming live to Journey with Hamptonio. You can subscribe, plug in, and subscribe there at the Journey with Hamptonio, and also Vince Robinson's page. You can subscribe with him as well. We're speaking with Giorgio Sabino. He's the CEO of Govia, and he's developed an app that deals with modernizing police encounters, and that's, that whole Justice Department is very crucial when we talking about the African American community, because that has been the thorn in our side for a long time, and this is just another piece in trying to, like I say, navigate through that whole encounter, because if we try to change gears in dealing with the whole court system, the court system is, it's not in our best interest. I think we should be having spotters in some of these courtrooms, and seeing how these actual judges are putting away our babies and sentencing our babies. You know what I mean? it's unfortunate sometimes the white community think we're making up some stuff. You go to some of these courtrooms in the suburbs, and some of these suburbs are predominantly European based, but you go into the courtroom and no but African Americans in the courtrooms. It's like they don't break traffic laws and things. So there's some imbalances there. There's no way around it. But I don't know why people always try to think we're over exaggerating our situation. But I would say, some of our European brothers and sisters out there, they're starting to see what we've been talking about for a long time in reference to these biases, explicit and implicit biases that's been a part of our community for a long time. So again, it's something that I think that we should address, and something that, because it's been very, how many brothers that you've been seeing that's been released, that's been falsely charged, and spent 10, 15, 25 years in jail, for issue. I think that there should be some, what was something that was on my mind about creating something, and it may be something that, since you might have the attorneys in your back pocket that trying to get some type of monies to supplement them, that can go in and take on these cases that some of our young youth has been charged with and is innocent, and they're charged just because of a financial situation, crisis that they're having, that due to the court appointed attorneys, not fully investigating it, and also leading our kids on to say, hey, take the plea, take the plea, take the plea. And right. A lot of times in this I've seen and heard that a lot of these youth and people are taking the plea just because of a financial burden that they may be having. So we should have a streamline of attorneys who's willing to pick it up, and if they need some supplement for them to represent these folks, we should do something. And our black attorneys should be saying something about this, really, because they just want to rubber stamp the situation and go to the next case, and then they threaten them with saying what? What's the normal thing? Hey, well, if we got to go to court with this, it's a possibility you could get 15 years. So go ahead and take the 1 year, stuff like that. What your thoughts on that?
Man, perfect. You set me up. What you said is exactly what Govia stands for. And that is giving absolute peace to someone in the moment, because you just laid out all the facts. You said this person's getting charged for this person's getting charged for that. And the education that they didn't have in the moment. So that's where we come in. We say, you know what, these statistics that you just shared of, how this looks and plays out, our job is to reduce those numbers.
Okay.
Because in that moment, you need someone who can say, you know what, be cool. You know what I mean? Let's handle this as men. Whether you did it or not, let's handle this as men. Now we're not going to get every single person to join this app. We're going to get our specific niche that says, you know what, I'm living life perfect. I'm just taking out an extra insurance plan to say I can have an attorney and a medical professional 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to make sure that I get home safe. Right? So we're just going after a demographic that says, I just don't want to be senselessly murdered. And, someone who's going to be a criminal is going to be a criminal. We're not talking about that population. That population saying no matter what crime they're about to commit, they're criminals. So that part is what police are here for. As far as who's caught in the middle, that's what we're talking about. And how that looks, and how we can be in that moment for that person in that moment, which reduces all those numbers you just shared.
Yeah, we had a conversation before we came live, and we talked about the decree, the consent decree that the department. Now people need to know and understand. You Trumpies out there need to understand that he went right back and gutted the DOJ. And meaning that he stopped all those police reform issues that we've been having across the country. He did that the last time. When Obama had those, when he had the 21st century policing stuff going on, and he was and all those decrees that he beefed up the DOJ to deal with these issues that we've been talking about as far as the African American community forever. Trump came and put a pause on that during that time. I'm talking to my Trumpies now, okay, that have a vested interest in the community and call themselves activists. Now he's coming. He turned around and did the same thing for all the grounds they have made in reference to police reform. He's ready to roll that stuff back as well. So I'm saying that to say too, during those times when the decree was in place, the department, as far as Cleveland is concerned, we were taking a lot of classes in dealing with de-escalation.
Mm-hmm.
That was the buzzword as far as the department is concerned. De-escalate, and that other piece that you got, they was talking about, because we had issues with police encounters with the mental health. Mm-hmm. So they call, I think it's called CPOP, where we are being trained to say, okay, this guy might be having a mental episode. Let's de-escalate and see how we can give him the proper attention he needs. He may not need to go to jail. He just may need, attention elsewhere. You know what I mean? And contacting his caseworkers and things of that nature. So I believe this fits right into what you're trying to do and why you're doing it.
Absolutely. And that's the whole purpose, is that when you make a safer environment, you know what I mean, through this app, either on the mental health side, where you now have someone live trying to assist that person, whether they're at the mall, whether at the movie theater, whether they're, in the alley. Now you have someone trying to make sure that person gets the resources, and that way it assists and lowers the numbers that we're talking about, and then when there's a police encounter, and you have mental health, now you look into the situation. I believe there's 17 police officers here in Cleveland that spread out through Cleveland who have been mentally given mental health education. I think I heard that through yesterday at the 10-year anniversary for the police decree. And so, knowing that there are now people stepping up in that area to make sure that there's 17, which is a wonderful number. But, now having this app where you're now getting connected to your own insurance, saying, okay, I got mental health right now in the moment, and it's 4 a.m. in the morning. That's the healthcare that we're bringing to the table.
Yeah, you said something, and I really didn't think about it, because we was always just, I was just focusing on traffic stop. So with this app as well, it could be a street encounter as well, a foot patrol street encounter that you can use this thing as well, because we all know that Trump talked about stop and frisk, bringing that back. So, let's not be naive and foolish about it. That's going to call for more of an aggressive encounter as far as with some police is concerned. Not everybody, but, if you're giving somebody, more tools to work with in reference to that, because that's always been an issue for us, the African American community, again, because far as police being able to say, come here, boy, you go walking down the street, minding your own business, come here, pull over, stop, things of that nature. And we're just getting to the point to where we're how can I say, modifying, or some of the police are pulling back from actually, having those type of encounters where it's actually breaking folks' civil rights. You just telling me to, because you suspicious of something and whatever, just come here. Why you riding through here? Where you going? And things of that nature. Right there, that your app may eliminate a lot of that type of traffic right there.
Very, very true. And to double back, Eric Gardner. So just imagine, most people carry their phone on their person, meaning that it's usually in their hand, texting or calling or something. So most people have their phone in their hand. So under like Eric Gardner, New York case, where he got choked out and said, "I cannot breathe." So now you have a situation where if he had his his phone out, said, "Hey, Govia." Now he has a live attorney that he can say, "Just talk to my attorney." The attorney would give his number, his ID number, to say that I'm an attorney. They can verify that, the police officers, and then now proceed giving that ticket and saying, "Okay, we'll meet you in court about this." And
Mm-hmm.
so in that situation, there would not have been a legal chokehold, and if there was, since there was that level of that angle from that person, you now have go via an attorney witnessing it to come into court and say, "I witnessed this illegal move from New York."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see how this how this would play off when you are selling this to departments, and I'm thinking about the street, the beat cop actually out there, and now this is another tool that is being used, because if the departments buy in, so they have to send out police orders and instructions and educate the officer on how this thing lays out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see some of, you're dealing with something different. You're dealing with change and things of that nature. So I'm just curious on how this thing will all play out in reference to some of the officers taking on this new policy, because we have to be trained in it, and you have to spread it out throughout the department and understand now as they approach the car, they may be met with an attorney,
Mm-hmm.
at that point. And I'm sure that would change the whole attitude, because as you were saying that, I was thinking about how some of these officers respond when they know that they are being videotaped from
Mm-hmm.
the citizens. You know what I mean? And that's going to change that whole dynamics, because you have some police officers pushing their phone out of the way, telling
Mm-hmm.
them to, and that's and quite frankly too, our administration has been really talking to officers about that. They're saying that, hey, just because somebody is taping, you have no right, that's their property. You cannot interfere with them taping, long as they are, not in your general space, and inhibiting you from conducting, your business, your traffic stop in a safe way. You cannot, tell them to stop recording you and things of that nature. That's been an issue, in the past, and that good old boy type of policing, that they was able to snatch people's phones out and throw them down, and confiscate them and put them in property and stuff of that nature. So that actually is going to change the way, and has been changing the way the police business has been done thus far. So I really think I'm just looking at it from that point of, now police got this on them, and a lot of them is feeling overburdened with all of this stuff right here. And if I had to broaden that statement, I would have to connect that with what's going on with the country, period.
Mm-hmm.
Because folks want their country back, and all these rules and regulations and stipulations. Folks are tired of that.
Mm-hmm.
These folks want these country back. Black folks getting too much right. The LGBT community is getting too much rights, and you got some pushback. So I want to encourage, in saying that, I want to encourage our listeners again to go to YouTube and look up Barbara Walters. I don't even think it's with an S, but Barbara Walters, not the one you used to see on The View. She wrote a book called "How Civil Wars Start." So she's done several interviews on the internet, on YouTube, and it's "How Civil Wars Start." Check her out, and it talks about how civil unrest takes place. And a lot of people think that these civil wars, she was slated for going across the globe and studying and investigating how civil wars start. And she said, popular belief is this. They believe it's through the impoverished. The impoverished ones rise up and go against the hierarchy, and because of the conditions. But she said no. She said most of these uprisings come from a group of people who see their power outgoing. And I'm bringing it home just to our present day condition. You know what I mean? On why we having this issue, because that's all it's about power. They feel that they're losing the numbers, they losing their power, and all these liberals. They talk about calling a person a liberal like it's a bad word. He's a liberal. Look, what's wrong with being fair and giving things back to folks who's been subjugated, disenfranchised, and things of that nature? Being fair, having this fair playing field. What's wrong with that? But they want to make somebody being liberal a bad word. That's a bad word. He's a liberal. He's a liberal. It's a bad word. Even with socialism, they look at that as being, a bad word. Let everybody, level the playing field, things of that nature. And when it's communists, been okay with us. We got our president palling around with communist regimes, and that used to be taboo in our community. They'd run you out this country if they thought you was, a communist. But it's okay. But see, that shows the desperateness of what's going on. They're willing to accept a person that is immoral as Trump. Yeah, people know I'm not a Trump supporter at all. So, but they're willing to accept that because of their desperation of being in charge again. You know what I mean? So that was my little soapbox thing, y'all. It might be off the subject a little bit, but I'm just painting the whole backdrop and picture of what we dealing with now. So now you got people that are wanting their country back and including all these new things that was actually taken away at one point in time. Now they bringing it back, and this app, as far as the police are concerned, can be very helpful as far as our community. So I'm looking at how many minutes we got. A few minutes. Is there anything you want to lay out on the people on us about the app, and where we got about 4 or 5 minutes left?
Sure. So to answer that question, which was about training the police and making sure that they understand the technology, that's very similar to the drone and training the drones. Technology is coming. Technology is here, and it's going to more advance as we go. And that's where we come in again and have a right place between helping the police and our citizens. And by doing such, we de-escalate and make new partnerships, more transparency. And so when I think about training the police, educating them how to use it, sit in their car and be right on Zoom, see people right there real time, and now you have an environment where it's just more safe. And for the ones who want to use it, that niche that wants to use this, that's where we would like to partner with the police to say, hey, we got people who want this particular service that can streamline some of this and de-escalate some of the things that we don't need to see in the society. Obviously, we're going to have criminals on the other side, and we're going to have very innocent people, like you shared earlier, who's been in prison for a while and it was innocent. So that's what we want to solve, is saying, hey, having someone there who can represent you, give you privilege, and give you credibility in the moment of your need, which is something that we don't usually get first come, first serve. So here we are saying, we would like some privilege. We would like some, credibility. And by providing that attorney in that moment, now you have someone who believes in you and say, you know what, I see that this has got to go down, whether it's right or wrong, it's going down. So let's handle this right.
Well, just quick, I just had a quick thought. We talked about street encounters, and we was talking about this relationship between that and the police. So could this app be used, for a domestic situation that I'm going with at home? To say, I didn't put my hands on her. I didn't, and can it be used like that personally as well?
When you bring an attorney, they now, excuse me, when you bring an attorney, you now just brought in a witness who just witnessed something.
Yeah. I just thought about that.
That in the moment you want someone credible and someone. So I can say yes to that, so that way it can help in this case, this domestic violence that needs not to be done. So
right. Some assaults, anything assault you out to in the issue, whatever, just another pair of eyes and stuff for you. Real quickly, we only probably got a couple minutes. So who do you have working with you, and what you're seeking out, and things of that nature? Who have bought into it already?
Great, great. Yeah. So, Greater Cleveland Partnership is funding a couple of our students, one from Case and one also from CSU.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're grateful for that partnership. People, Places, and Dreams, which is on the mental health side, and so that's been a beautiful partnership. And then the cohorts that we've been in, from MIT to Global Silicon Valley. We're at Berkeley campus right now with three interns, one full-time attorney. We are been part of Jumpstart for a number of years, in addition to the President's Council and many others, many others. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been
Okay.
quite fun.
And how they, with about a minute left, how would they, if folks is interested, in, is there a website, contact, whatever? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yes. So if you go to www.govia, govia.app, you can log in there, and that way, when we officially launch, then we will send out an email saying that we are live and ready for helping and assisting, all people.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I appreciate you, brother, for coming on and spreading that. You touched into a background that I'm a little familiar with, and I can see some of the benefits that our community can have in reference to this. So any African American doing something and changing the scope of things is always great. And because we never stop creating and inventing. We've been doing it and helping this country for forever. But so I appreciate you, brother, for coming on and sharing your dream and your passion with us, and thank you. We'll keep in touch, my brother.
I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. You've been listening to 360 Info. I'm your host, Antonio, and we'll be back next week. And I may be talking to you guys from overseas. So until then, peace, love, and blessings.
All right.
Peace.